What's going on, guys? Welcome back to SPOILERCAST, a Hungry Gamers offshoot that aims to inform, entertain, and educate you on one particular release from within the video game, film, or television geek culture universe. And on this episode, we are tackling a game that was recently released on September 19th, scoring 88 on Metacritic for PC, and 84 for Switch, developed by Terrible Toybox. We are talking about the long-awaited return to Monkey Island. I'm your host, Jono Peck. You can find me at Jono himself. And joining me is mighty pirate Benny McJanet, who can be found at the Spawny13. How you doing, Benny?
Good, mate, good. Yeah, really actually keen to talk about this game. I have a lot to say, and I don't want to say anything too major before we get into the spoilers territory. I mean, I think the only other person in 8-bit that's as big a Monkey Island fan as you and I would have to be Ali, who obviously due to time zone differences makes it a little bit difficult to get on this call, but I'm really excited by this game and excited to play it, or have played it, to be honest. And I was just blown away to get another Monkey Island game.
Yeah, it would have been good to have Ali on here, but I don't think she's even started the game as of recording. So looking forward to hearing what she has to say when the time comes on the Hungry Gamers. But yeah, so for now we're just talking. We'll start off with a spoiler-free review, and then we'll move right into the full spoiler territory. Kicking it off with the synopsis. It's been many years since Guybrush Threepwood was last locked in a battle of wits with his nemesis, the zombie pirate LeChuck. His true love, Elaine Marley, has turned her focus away from governing, and Guybrush himself is adrift and unfulfilled, having never found the secret of Monkey Island. Hip young pirate leaders led by Captain Madison have shuffled the old guard from power. Melee Island has taken a turn for the worse, and famed businessman Stan has been imprisoned for marketing-related crimes. So, Benny, the background for this game is an interesting one because, I guess the big thing is that Ron Gilbert's back. He hasn't been involved since Monkey Island 2.
That's right.
And he's really, I guess, at the heart of it. He really is Monkey Island. Like, there's a lot of guys that were involved in the series over the years, and they've
If I think Monkey Island, the first two names I think of are Ron Gilbert and Tim Schafer.
Yeah,
I don't think of anyone else.
Yeah, it's a shame that I guess Tim Schafer wasn't part of this one, but they both work at like different studios now, so it would be a tough thing to pull off. But the Thimbleweed Park was such a great experience for me in that return to like the adventure game style. And so to see Terrible Toybox get announced for making this game, I was stoked because I really didn't think we'd get another Monkey Island game. I thought that the Telltale ones would be where the franchise ended. And that one, along with Escape from Monkey Island, I always like all of these games, but they don't quite capture, the magic of it as much as the original three, and especially the first two, I think. And I think we've both been fans since childhood, so it was pretty special to get back to this world, wasn't it?
I think you're right. Like, it's like using Escape and Tales of, they definitely weren't the same caliber. I think it's the right term we're looking for there. But in saying that, they're still actually really, really excellent games. Like, I put the Telltale one above Escape. Okay. But Escape, if you go back, I think it's still rated like an 88 on Metacritic. Like, it's still like a really good game.
That's still
we just don't talk about monkey combat and we're fine. So it's one of those things where I like those games. They're not the best Monkey Island games, but they're still really, really good point-and-click adventures. And I think Tales did a lot of stuff that was right, especially at the time, and I really enjoyed it. I haven't replayed Tales. I don't think I've replayed Tales in full since it came out. I know I've played Escape at least a couple of times, but it's nowhere near as many times as I played 1, 2, and 3. So getting Ron come back, like, it's really, really cool because, like, for me, Monkey Island, like, I played it as a kid. Around the time the original release happened, my first interaction with it probably might have actually been when it first came out. which was 1990, if I'm not
Mm-mm.
mistaken. Am I getting my dates right there?
90. Yeah.
But like I remember, my older brother who had a Windows PC and everything at the time. No, not Windows PC, because it was before Windows. But whatever he had at the time, he had that game, and he had it and Loom actually.
Okay.
Um, and I remember playing a little bit of Monkey Island and stuff like that on his computer and all that sort of stuff. And then I think it was around 95. There was like a collector's, like a LucasArts collector's box,
Oh
which
yeah.
had Secret of Monkey Island, Day of the Tentacle, Indiana Jones, Fate of Atlantis, Sam and Max Hit the Road, and I think it did have Return to Monkey Island, but I don't think it actually did. I didn't think I actually got it till later.
Monkey Island 2.
I can't remember exactly. It was so long ago. Like we're talking nearly 30 years ago now. But like I remember just playing the absolute crap out of these adventure games. And Secret of Monkey Island was obviously top tier. I'm pretty sure Return to Monkey Island was not Return. Monkey Island 2,
Revenge.
LeChuck's
Yeah.
Revenge,
Yeah.
was on there as well. But I was just like, because I missed it obviously the first time around. But getting to go back and play these games and enjoy them and all that sort of stuff, and then having Curse come out when I had my own PC and everything by the time that rolled around as well, and playing the ever living crap out of that too. It's one of these series for me, and I assume a little bit for yourself as well, that it's made such a huge impact on my life, and it's actually still, for me, it's actually a daily part of my life because I use Monkey Island references in different little things around the house, and like I've got for one of the passwords I use for certain things is actually a Monkey Island reference and things like that without giving too much away. One of my first like online chat personas was Threepwood.
Very cool.
Things like that. So I've been using Monkey Island references in my IT or like computer-based culture lifestyle that I live. Since I was like 13, and here I am now 39. I still use Monkey Island-based stuff to this day. I think even like on my first Windows 95, my password hint was "I want to be a pirate." Oh, right. I want to be a mighty pirate or something like that.
It's funny, like you say, like I didn't grow up with it in the sense that as they were coming out, because I was only 3 years old when the first one hit. But I was introduced to like Fate of Atlantis was my pathway into point and click adventures, and then it was a few years later. I think I was like 11 when I discovered at a friend's house The Secret of Monkey Island, and then quickly like played the sequel, and years later the third and fourth ones. And I remember like way back, this seems so weird now, but I rented Escape from Monkey Island, and that was a that was a rare like PC rental. Like you just didn't really do that. It was usually like console games. But I just had to play it.
I'm sitting here going, shit, that's right. You could rent PC games.
Yeah, you had to.
It was very rare, but you could. Yeah,
and then like it was something that at uni, I'd replay them, and then obviously you had the Telltale ones, and they were my very first dabbling into like episodic things. Like I'd never heard of that before. I guess Telltale was doing it quite early, and it was before The Walking Dead and everything. But then the first, like I downloaded Steam for the first time to buy the 2009 special edition where they remade Monkey Island with the updated graphics and voice acting and stuff. So that was awesome. And funnily enough, I'm not a PC guy. I never touched Steam again until this year when I downloaded No Place for Bravery, just did a review for that, and then Return to Monkey Island. So the three games in my library, two of them are Monkey Island, and 13 years apart.
This is another Monkey Island game.
Yeah, it was nostalgic to play this on a PC. Like I wouldn't have wanted to play it on the Switch, even though that apparently plays pretty well on console. But really really great to point and click like the old days. But let's get into it. What did you think of the game, Benny? We're spoiler free here, but just what was the experience like for you to return to familiar territories?
So I mean, without getting into spoiler territory, like I loved it. It's everything I wanted in the game. It's great gameplay, the dialogue, lots of nods to the originals, callbacks to the other games, because we've had those callbacks to the earlier games right throughout the series. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously excluding Secret because it was the first one, but even it had callbacks to the other LucasArts franchise that got released at the same time, being Loom. So it's a part of their design and storytelling that came with these, especially the Monkey Island games. And just to have all that pop back up and showing all that sort of stuff and loving for the rest of the franchise. Like, because Ron Gilbert came in, I was concerned that, and because they were talking about, it's a Monkey Island 3A and all this sort of stuff. I'm like, okay, I can kind of see what you guys are doing there. But what are you really doing? And I was a bit concerned that they weren't gonna bring in like Murray and things like that, because like Curse of Monkey Island, like Murray is one of the best things about Curse of Monkey Island.
Yeah.
Because he came in number 3. So bringing like Murray back and acknowledging that, hey, these other games did exist. They are part of the story, and we're going to use them. That was one of the other things that really was. I'd say it wasn't really important to me because I was going to probably enjoy the game regardless. But it's one of those things where I was like, okay, how are they bringing these guys back, these other characters and things like that back in to show that, this world has been persistent even without Ron.
Yeah.
But like, it's like the look is fresh. It's the art style it's unique, but it fits the tone of the games and the previous games as well. So I just found like overall the whole thing was just really a love letter to Monkey Island.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Without
think.
without getting into the spoilers, which we will get into later. Overall, I loved it. What do you think?
Yeah, I was very, very similar. Like, it was super nostalgic, and everything about this franchise kind of is like, even like you think about Escape from Monkey Island, which came out 20 years ago or something. Like, even that was
it's 90. No, it was 2000.
Yeah, it was 2000 and something.
Yeah.
But even that was like throwbacks to a game by that point that was 10 or 12 years old, and characters like Otis and Voodoo Lady and these like Carla, like people from the original game that you just wanted to see again. So it was great to see those familiar faces again, going back to some familiar locations, which we won't necessarily mention which ones, but just to see them with a new art style keeps it fresh and interesting. And obviously things in the story where things have changed, like I read in the synopsis, you've got a new kind of the new guard of young pirates that have come in and taken over, so that changes some of the way that for example Melee Island works and stuff like that. So it was cool just to see, this is what they've been up to since the last time we saw them, and in that sense, deeply nostalgic. And
it's like catching up with an old friend when you see some of those old characters come back as well.
Yeah, it's the same. It's fan service, but in the good sense of like, here's Han and Chewie in episode 7. Like, this is what they've been up to and that kind of thing. So I really just thought it was great the way that it was handled, and super well written and all that kind of stuff. But if we get a little bit into kind of the different elements that make up the game, what did you think specifically of the way that they handled story and characters in Return to Monkey Island?
Like we kind of already touched on it, like it's just the characters and like Return to the Classics. But like the choice to start at the amusement park, you've got the guys like you said, you mentioned Carla, the Voodoo Lady. So we look at, and I was thinking about this when you were speaking about it before. Like, so the characters have been, besides Elaine and Guybrush and LeChuck, like Voodoo Lady and Stan have been in every single game.
Yeah.
I'm actually sorry. I'm just blanking. If Stan was in Tales,
Yeah, he was, and that was where he was
he
voiced
was.
by Gavin Hammond.
Yeah, that's what it was. He was a lawyer in that one. Yeah. So anyway, but you know, like, so there's all those sorts of things, and then you're bringing back Wally, who hasn't been in it since Curse. Herman Toothrot's in there as well. He's come back. He's been in that's the other character that's been in every single one.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure. Again, I'm
Yeah,
like, hang on, was
I think
Herman?
so.
Yes, he was in Tales.
I think it's safe to like that's not a spoiler to say that Herman's in there, is it? Because I guess he's in every game, right? Like it's pretty
He's in every
obvious.
game, and we'll talk a little bit more about Herman later on. But yeah, it's really cool just to get them all back, like you said, and all that sort of stuff, and then going back to the amusement park at the start of the game, but then changing it just ever so slightly.
Hmm.
This is what happened. They kind of led us on a wild goose chase with the promo material, saying like, "Oh, this is what happened after, you know, at the amusement park and all this sort of stuff," and then they turn it around and have it be like it's Guybrush's son playing with his friend Chucky and Dee and all that sort of stuff, which was pretty interesting, unique way of telling it, and then having Guybrush kind of tell the story to his son about how he was involved with Captain Madison and went to find the secret of Monkey Island, and that's the whole premise of the game is that he's trying to find the secret of Monkey Island. Finally, this thing that was mentioned back in the original game 30 something years ago, we're going to go chasing after it now. And yeah, it's a unique way to start it and to bring all these characters back and then take you back to Mealy Island and then make references throughout of other storylines and things like that. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, like you mentioned, it's the return of the classic characters, but I did
Mm,
enjoy most of the new ones they brought in, like the pirate crew.
mm,
Were all
yeah,
really, really fun. I liked the museum curator. He was just kind of like that kind of guy that you love to hate, who's just
yeah,
completely by the book and super nerdy. Then you had Judge Plank, that was an interesting character. So
mm.
yeah, I think they did a great job of
Oh,
if they made, like, for example, if they made another 3 Monkey Island games over the next 20 years, I could see these characters being like the classic ones that they get brought back, because everyone's
yeah,
just so well written and
mm.
memorable that they could easily become, you know, sitting right alongside those ones that we've known for many years before.
Yeah, and like all those characters, like you said, they do become pretty memorable pretty quickly. And I just had the kind of brainstorm as well. There's the two guys on the quarantine vessel,
Oh yeah.
and I were watching and go, "Oh, this is a bit on the nose in 2022, isn't it?"
Yeah.
oh,
Well, I've
oh, and
got
we
that.
don't believe in science and everything. Like,
Yeah, I've got that in my in the spoiler moments for like favorite moments of the game. So we'll definitely mention that
oh
a bit
yeah.
later.
Yeah,
But
I don't think it's really a spoiler to say they're in there because I'm not going
no,
to reference
yeah, no, it's fine.
any puzzles or anything like that that's involved there. But that's coming up, and then it's just like, boy, that's that's going to come back.
Yeah, that was great. So the last
Mm,
thing I'll say about the story before we move on is, like, there is a dramatic thread that goes between
mm-hmm,
Elaine and Guybrush through the game, and it's very
mm-hmm,
subtle at first because, to begin with, Elaine's not really there that much. She
yeah,
just kind of appears, disappears, appears again, disappears. But then,
mm-hmm,
as it gets closer and closer towards the end, it becomes like the dramatic thread that it's being subtly hinted at becomes really obvious and very clear.
mm,
And I like that it's there as kind of like a theme. It's not just like,
yeah,
here's a story and here's a bunch of jokes and we're getting to the end of the game and now it's over. Like, I feel like it actually had a point that they were getting at. And we'll
yeah,
talk about that specifically in spoiler territory. But
yeah,
I'm glad that was there. But did you have anything
yeah.
else
So
you wanted to say about story before we move on?
no, not really. The main premise of the story and all that sort of very Monkey Islandy, and it felt right, and without getting into spoiler territory, it just felt like a Monkey Island story,
Hmm.
which is exactly what you want a Monkey Island game to be.
Yeah.
Uh, Like,
Yeah.
even if the way they presented it being in this narrative that of Guybrush telling the story to his son,
Mm.
Boybrush, as the subtitles called him, it's it was still very much a Monkey Island story, which, like I said, it's exactly what you want.
Yeah. So we'll talk a bit about the gameplay and the performance.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they did a really good job of narrowing down the sometimes convoluted point and click style
Mm-hmm.
gameplay to a totally basic system where you got a left click and a right click, and
Yep.
it just the game just takes away all the guessing of like, am I going to push this or am I going to pick it up or am I going to use it
Yeah.
or am I going to look at it? It's just like very intuitive. I know that obviously Curse from Monkey Island deviated from
Mm.
that first, but it's still the other games have still had like somewhat of a system that hasn't been
Yeah.
as
Like
essential as this.
like some of the puzzles, like you go back to even Curse, like there was a look at um item or whatever it was the solution to the puzzle. So to remove all that, where it's just like, okay, left click is to either A, pick it up or look at it, and then right click is to use the item.
Mm.
Whether it's, and that was the thing, like you go back to those original point and clicks, you look at what the menu structure was for the actions, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right, you had to pick up or push or pull. Like they were all individual action commands instead of just being use.
Yeah.
So yeah, for them to clean all that up to actually get it down to 2 clicks was really, really good. I did only have one issue with the controls, and it's when you go into your inventory, and you right. Like, it had happened to me enough times it became annoying by the end. But I'd speed click and I'd accidentally left click or grab an item
Yeah.
by accident, and I'd drop it immediately, and then I couldn't actually right click straight away to go. I wanted to use the other action to do something with it or whatever it was. So you had to move the mouse away or close the inventory before you could go back to it to reset the tooltip to be able to get the right click option to even pop up on the screen. Which
I
was
had that
really
too.
that was more just annoyance. The other thing was I would have liked if they made it a I don't know what you'd call it exactly, but a borderless window game or something like that, so that if I'm moving my mouse, because there's so many times where to exit the area, the click would be right on the edge of the screen.
Yeah.
Like it needed to be moved in just a little bit more. And when you've got a multi-monitor setup, the number of times I'd click onto another screen and then the game would shrink
Pauses. Yeah.
the window and pause and everything like that. And I'm like, oh, god damn it. That became a little bit of a nuisance as well.
Yeah, that happened to me too.
So that's more just nitpicking, like things that can be fixed up in bug fixes. But yeah.
No, that's completely understandable. I had the same issues, and they're not enough to like ruin anything. It's just if you're playing for a long time, then it starts to add up. I did like that. The movement of Guybrush was actually fairly quick, and especially if you like double clicked, then
double click to sprint,
and pick up the pace. So you weren't often waiting for like sometimes in these games it gets very draining to be like, okay, I'm waiting for you to walk from one side of the screen to the other, and we've been in this area multiple times because I've been trying different solutions to these different puzzles and traveling around, so I'm over this and I just want you to get there. So that wasn't so much an issue in this one, which is great. Let's talk about the puzzles. So I thought that they were really, really well done. Like there was a good difficulty to them. Some of them were like way too hard for me, but they've
there's a couple that were really hard.
Fortunately, put in a great hint system that was. I don't know if it was debuted in Thimbleweed Park, but Thimbleweed Park had like a phone hotline that you could call in the game at any point to like payphones, and you could just call the number in a phone book.
Maybe that's a reference to the Monkey Island 2 puzzle. When you're on Dinky Island and you ring the LucasArts hotline.
Yeah, possibly. But
it's like, how do I get out of the jungle? Just head to the right, sir.
Yeah. So in Thimbleweed Park, you could call and you could get like progressively more detail in the hint until they basically just
Mm.
tell you exactly what to do, and they've implemented that here as well, where they'll either steer you in the right direction. You go, oh, that's what it was. I wasn't thinking about that kind of
Yep.
solution, or if you know, especially towards the end when I was like, okay, I just kind of want to finish the game now. Just tell me what to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
uh,
Yeah,
so
I had one of those where I was like, I had the right idea for the solution,
yeah.
but like I wasn't doing the right thing to achieve that solution, and I was like, because I was like, oh, I think it's this, and then I found something else, and I was like, oh, maybe it's this instead. But then I didn't realize, like, I was trying to figure out how the hell to get that item that I needed to be able to move forward to the next part of that puzzle. Because it's the
Yeah.
last puzzle I had. I think it was on Melee Island at the start, from what I remember. Um, and it was getting to that point where it was almost that monkey wrench puzzle territory. Um, which, funnily enough, I know that was an issue for a lot of people way back when, but I remember when I was playing it, and I don't know why, but I never had that monkey wrench issue. Maybe because I knew what a monkey wrench was, so I put two and two together pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the only that was where I was thinking. There was a couple of times where I did use the hint system, and it was more along the lines of, okay, I'm on the right path here, and then I'd go to the hint system. It says, oh, you need to do this. I'm like, yeah, I'm already doing that.
Yeah.
What's the next step following that? So I had to click the hint system. Like, there was one where I was like, okay, no, I've already done all that. I've done that. I've done that. I've done that. I've done that. Oh, it's that. That's what I'm missing.
Mm.
And so I was already that far down. And it was just really frustrating that I'd already solved the majority of the puzzles for it, but it was just one of those things where the hint system was telling me something. It's like, yeah, I already worked that stuff out, you bastard.
Yeah. I mean, the nature of games has changed so much
Mm,
since like this genre was popular that people don't
yep.
want to spend hours trying to figure something out, and
No.
you just can't make a player do that because we've got other games to
No.
play, we've got other things to do, we're adults here, we've got
Yep.
lives to live, so there's no
Mm.
shame in looking
Oh,
up the solution, I think.
yeah. Well, there's no shame in that at all. And like, if I got to that point, I was going to get to that point. But
Yeah.
I was just having the realization as well that like there's a lot of those map puzzles in this one.
Mm.
You've got the treasure map, and you're following it through the maze like jungle or whatever it is to get to wherever you need to go. They kind of relied on that trope a little too much in this one, I think.
Right, sure. Yeah, I mean, the thing about the puzzles is you feel smart when you figure it out, and um, you feel you never really feel stupid
Mm,
for a
no,
solution. You like usually when I looked one up, I was like, oh yeah, I probably wouldn't have thought of that, or
yeah,
I would have spent a long time before I got to that. So I'm glad I looked up the answer.
yeah,
You mentioned a little bit about the art style. That was a
mm,
huge talking point when this game was revealed, and
yeah.
I never really understood it. Like, I think
I've never had an issue with it.
yeah, like we were talking about it when it happened, and you made a good point that every time these games come out, they have a new style,
Yeah,
except for I guess 1 and 2 because they were both pixel art. Um, but
mm,
yeah, like this, I had no issues with the art style at all. I think people need to chill. It was
no,
a fun and modern look for me
yeah,
without going for like a photo real or 3D style like they've done with I guess Tales and Escape from Monkey Island. I think
yeah,
that 3D style is part of what it maybe it's part of what made it feel
mm,
not the same as those original 2D adventures. So I'm
yeah.
glad that they did that, and making it a little bit abstract in some ways made it work for
And
me.
the other thing is, all the characters were immediately identifiable as to who they were,
Yeah.
regardless. So it wasn't changed to the point where they'd completely redesigned like Guybrush from the ground up or anything
Hmm.
like that. He still looked like Guybrush.
Yeah.
It still felt very Monkey Islandy, and like it just looked great. I really like the scenery. I like like the building design and things like that they brought into it, and then the character design, which is probably the most jarring part, is just the style they used for the characters. But for like the whole threat, I'm saying, I was gonna say, oh, for the most part it worked, but it actually it just did work. I never had any issues with it at all.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
I'd be interested to hear what people thought after playing it. Like, I know Ali wasn't a
mm,
big fan of it, so I'll be curious to hear whether she got
yeah.
over that or whether it was something that she didn't enjoy throughout the experience. But
Mm,
yeah, I feel like, I mean, yes, there are other styles, I guess, that they could have chosen that aren't
yeah.
like this. But yeah, for me, it worked, and it's such a hard thing because you have to be true to the feel of the game. Like, for example, the clouds in Monkey Island have a very specific
Yes, they've got a
design.
very distinct design, don't they?
Yeah, and they were able to capture that and other images that we're used to seeing.
Hmm.
But it's so fun to see these familiar places like Melee Island and
Oh,
Monkey Island in a new image.
they use the same artwork for Murray from Curse,
Okay,
virtually.
yeah,
It popped up several times throughout the game.
yeah. So it's cool to see these places reimagined in different art styles, still
Yeah,
being incredibly recognizable, but fresh, as I was saying earlier.
yeah.
So yeah, that's all I really have to say about the graphics. They like there maybe was one or two character models where I was like, oh, that's an interesting choice, and maybe it doesn't quite work
Mm,
for me. But to say that it like ruins the game or like you're not going to play it because of it is very extreme, and I question people like that whether they really are fans because there's so much to
yeah.
look past. Like there's so much to enjoy
Hmm.
without worrying about the look that I think that if you are really a fan, not to be like gatekeeper or anything, but like
Yeah.
it's like when your favorite band has a slightly new style. It's like if they are like if you're a big fan of them, you'll give it a shot and you'll listen and find the good in it.
Yeah, at least give it a crack first before you rubbish it completely. I mean, hey, not everything's going to be for everyone at the end of the day. So everyone's entitled to their own opinions and tastes and things like that. But in terms of the art style, I think it was a lot of hullabaloo about nothing. It's just it's I never had an issue with it. When I first saw it, I do remember thinking, oh, that's an interesting art choice. But honestly, I think it'll be fine. And yeah, it was. And like I said, it didn't really bother me. It flowed throughout the whole game. There wasn't any dramas with it at all. And I think it's suited for the game and story that they were telling anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder how it performs on Switch. We can't comment on that, but on PC it was.
No.
My PC is not a gaming laptop.
Hmm.
It's just a basic laptop, and it ran perfectly fine for me. I
Yeah.
did even put the settings on like the maximum quality.
Yeah, so by default it's set to medium. So if you do want to up the graphics for whatever reason, uh, or if you want to take advantage of your latest and greatest, whatever you've got, not that you really need a lot to get to there. Yeah, you just need to up the graphic settings before to high or whatever it says in the menus there before you start playing.
Yeah, I wonder what that changes because I didn't necessarily notice the difference when I upped it.
No.
Maybe it's just I don't
I'll
know,
probably just like because there's a lot of
frame
lighting
rate.
blooms and things like that,
Yes.
like with the torches and the ghost pirates and stuff like that. So that's probably all that really would have been affected for the most part. Maybe frame rate as well, probably.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the music and the sound. Probably a good chance here to talk about the voice acting. The
Hmm.
cast is fantastic in this game. They've pulled in a lot of talented and well-known voice actors. A few who I've had the pleasure of interviewing in the past. So Yuri Lowenthal played the chef and another character. Gavin
Hmm.
Hammond is back as Stan. He played Stan in at least in the Telltale
Yeah.
series. Courtney Taylor plays one of the pirates. Rob Paulson, you
Yeah.
know, is unmistakable in his performance as at least in one of the characters he plays. And then of course,
He's literally just doing Raphael
yeah, yeah, and then
for one of them.
and Dominic Armato as Guybrush as always.
it just
Brilliant,
nails
just
it.
absolutely brilliant. Always
Yeah.
hilarious. Just I don't know if I've heard him in any other role, and I don't know if I ever could because he's just Guybrush.
He's just
Yeah,
Guybrush, 100%. I was gonna say even because I know they got a different voice actor for LeChuck. They didn't get the same
I
one back.
noticed. Yeah, I did notice that, but he was good as well.
He was good. It worked.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I never had any dramas. And the one they got back for Elaine, I can't remember exactly which one it was. I think it's the same one from Tales,
Right.
if I'm not mistaken. But like, yeah, she was brilliant as well. So yeah, it's just fantastic.
And the music's always great in these
Oh,
games. Like
spot on.
it's yeah,
Like the little Monkey Island jaunt at the start of the game. Like, I didn't want to skip the credits because I was too busy singing
yeah,
along. You know, it's got the opening credits. I was like, I want to listen to the music.
same.
Um, the whole there's references to LeChuck's theme and stuff like that in the game as well, and like that theme is just iconic for LeChuck.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the romance theme for Elaine as well, and then yeah, it's just they've got so many little themes that come up. Like I don't know if you noticed, but it's in part two. Yeah, in part two of the game, without going into spoiler territory, but the music that they use there is from the graveyard and it's nothing to do with a graveyard in this one. I would have thought it'd be a different sort of soundtrack for this section, but they stole the graveyard music from Curse.
Okay, I missed that.
Yeah, so yeah, it was kind of cool. The Voodoo Ladies music is back as well, so like that's gorgeous and is there, and Stan's music pops up again as well.
There you go. I've just looked up Alexandra Boyd, who plays Elaine, and she's been her for the whole time.
Oh,
As well.
she has?
Yeah.
I thought in Escape they had someone else.
Let me see.
Because they like changed the accent in one of them, and I'm pretty sure it was in Escape, but I could be wrong.
Actually, you're right. She's not Escape, but she's everything else. Like she was in Curse and the Telltale ones and the special editions of 1 and 2.
Yep.
So yeah,
that's why.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause she had an American accent in Escape.
Oh yeah. Yep. Okay. So we're up to the point where we'll drop a few little nitpicks and gripes, spoiler free, that we may not have mentioned already, and then we'll dip right into spoiler territory. So for me, there was a couple of items that I found in the game that I never used or had any use for, and it makes me wonder: were there like optional quests or optional puzzles that were just for fun, or were those items just never used?
I'm not entirely sure. Did you play? So we should actually go back to where we were talking about puzzles and stuff. There's actually a hard mode.
Yeah, I played.
So
on
you get
hard
additional
mode.
puzzles. You did play it on hard mode. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what items there was that I had that I didn't use. Like I didn't do the pre-order bonus, so I didn't get the there's like a unicorn item or something like that that just sits in your inventory. It's not used in the game.
I didn't get that either.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what they were, because I don't think this is a spoiler, but it was a sponge that you've got at Stan's dock, and the ball of string that was all messed up from the chef's kitchen. And so you had them, and then once you got through that act to Act 2, they were gone from your inventory, and I was like, oh, well, did I miss a puzzle? Was there like just something that was there just for jokes? Because usually all the puzzles in this
it's there for a joke or a puzzle or something. Yeah.
Yeah, like usually everything has a purpose and it's like needed.
Yeah. I was thinking the string. Like I remember when I had it there because I was thinking that was going to be for the mop, but didn't end up being that. So I don't know what that was ended up being for. Good point.
I'll have to Google it once if there's a bit more out there about it.
Just also on the topic of items and things like that, you actually jogged my memory about the trivia cards. How they're scattered throughout the game. I didn't collect all the trivia cards on my playthrough. I'm not entirely sure how that works because it was like one moment I found like 5 in like a matter of minutes walking between areas, and then the next moment is like I haven't seen one for ages. Where are they? So I'm not entirely sure how that works.
I had the same issue where I wanted to get all of them because it was fun, but by the end of it, I probably had less than 50% of them.
Oh, dude, I think I had like maybe 20. There's supposed to be like more than 50 trivia questions in the thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
It
Maybe
comes up in the
it's
Steam achievements
yeah.
to get them all.
I got 10 of them right, and I probably got 5 or 10 of
Mm.
them wrong. So I must have found at least 20, but I think
Oh,
there
see,
was
I only answered one wrong because I wasn't answering them unless I knew what they were. So I was
okay.
leaving them alone until I
Yeah,
could come back to them with the answer.
that's smart. But
Yeah.
yeah, there is something we didn't mention earlier or up to this point where, at least on PC, if you press the tab button, it shows like every item that can be interacted with on the screen. And that was
Oh,
you never noticed that?
I never noticed that and never used it once in the game.
So that was in the settings,
That
like
might have helped.
when you go into control settings. So if you press
Yeah.
tab, it puts a little circle around each item that can be interacted with, and that was a way that I would just see if there were any trivia cards on the
Mm.
screen, and off because often they were in the hiding spots, hidden in
Oh,
plain
yeah.
sight, and I picked up a
Yeah.
lot of them that way. But even still, I was pressing that and not finding them, unless I just forgot
Yeah.
to do it sometimes. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I just remembered another one of the puzzles that I had troubles with in Act Two, and it just kind of clicked to me, and I was just thinking, oh, would that tab thing have helped? I'm like, no, actually, it wouldn't have because that puzzle was a dick. That was on Monkey Wrench level. I was like, hang on, no, this one's the shit. That one really annoyed me when I got the hint and told me what it was, and I was like, are you shitting me?
I want to know what it is. So you'll have to tell me when we get to our least favorite moments.
Like just going back to nitpicks and gripes, like just like you've got it written down in the notes about going shortcuts to the world map and things like that, and it does become a huge pain in the butt that when you're going back to that same section of the island again
Mm.
over and over and over again. And like, oh.
Yeah, so to elaborate on that, there's a shortcut. If you pressed M for map,
Mm.
it would take you to the world map once you unlocked an area, a section of the game where
Mhm.
there's like inter-island travel. But there was
Mhm.
no way to do that to get to just the map for a specific island. So if you're in a shop
Yeah.
and you want to get to, if you're in the scum bar and you want to get to the governor's mansion, if you're on the world map version of that island, then you can just get there really quickly. But if not, you got to
Yeah.
like walk all the way through town, go past the voodoo lady shop, and
Yeah.
it takes a really long time. So it would have been nice to have that same thing implemented from the larger world map to just like the island map. I think that
Yeah.
it would probably take out, I guess, some of. That's one of the things where it's a quality of life improvement that modernizes it, but maybe they wanted to keep some things a bit more old school.
Yeah. Yeah. And for the most part, it's not a real pain. It's just it's specifically on Mealy Island. I found it was an issue.
Yeah, that's probably
Um,
true. And it makes you think like, oh, what's the quickest way to get there? If I go back to the lighthouse, to the lookout, then I can exit
yeah,
to the map.
do I go to the lookout? So even like, yeah, I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but yeah, you're sitting there going, shit, I'm in the middle of town and I need which one's the quicker option to get back out to the map?
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah,
All right.
definitely
Well,
frustrating.
that's they're pretty minor gripes that we've thrown out there.
Mm,
So I guess people can glean from this that we've enjoyed the game quite a bit. If you can give a
yep.
little quick summary of or recommendation to people that are listening spoiler free, what would be your word on that?
If you like adventure puzzle games, it's a must play. If you are a Monkey Island fan, even in the slightest, it is 100% must play game.
Yeah.
You must play it. It's simple as that. You have to play this game if you're a Monkey Island fan.
And I would say you probably. Do you think you could play this without having played the other games? Because you'd miss so much, wouldn't you?
Yes, you can play it. Would I recommend it? No.
It's like any sequel, really. Like Uncharted
Yeah.
4 before playing the first three. Like, sure, you'll have a good time, but you'll miss what
Yeah.
makes it special, I think.
Yeah. I think you don't really need to play Escape or Tails,
Yeah, that's
really, because
fair.
there's not a huge lot of callback to those two.
Hmm.
But I think the first three are so very good. Like LeChuck's Revenge and Curse, it flops on the day for me of which one's the best out of the series. But those two are the best games in the series. And I think you need to at least play the first Secret to Monkey Island.
Yeah.
Maybe not maybe not 2 and Curse, but at least the Secret, because there's so many references to Secret, especially with the return to Mealy Island and everything like that.
Yeah.
And how they utilize Mealy Island in this game as compared to how they use. Because Escape was on Mealy Island as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, at least for some part of it, I think. I actually can't remember. I remember the Aussie Mandrill.
Aussie billionaire, and there was
Yeah.
the guy that was also running for governor that Elaine was like up for re-election against.
Yeah.
And I think that was on Mealy Island, but I don't remember exactly.
Anyway, I agree with everything Benny said. Play this game if you have any interest in it, because it's great. You won't. I don't think you'll be disappointed. But let's dive right into spoiler territory.
Woohoo!
Benny, here we are in these deep waters of spoilers. What were your favourite moments in Monkey Island? Let's spoil it.
We want to go to the favourite moments first, or?
Yeah, let's go into favourite moments first.
Yeah, all right. Look, having Murray back. I mentioned it before. Murray is one of my favourite characters. He's the character that made Monkey Island, Curse of Monkey Island, for me, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So having him back is probably one of the best things. The references to the rubber trees was really cool. Just like all the references throughout the game. When you go talk to Carla, who's now the governor of Melee, and every time you have a conversation with her, you start a sword fight.
Yeah.
Because she's the sword master.
That was awesome.
The references in the museum, and you go and talk to the curator about all these references, and it's stuff from your life, like from Guybrush's life. But the curator doesn't believe that any of it happened to Guybrush. Like looking at the map of Cape Capsize and all of that, trying to, things like that. It's like the wanted poster that you vandalized to get rid of your own image and all that sort of stuff, so you could stay out of jail. So all that sort of stuff.
There's so much love for the series.
That's what I really love.
Yeah, there's so much fans this is a good version of fan service where they've just included. It's chock full of references to, the series having existed for so long, and Guybrush has done so much. There's been so many adventures that I'm sure there was stuff that we both missed, but it seems like there was so much stuff, and it was just so well done. Like a small example is that one of the you got the classic there's a 300 monkey behind you, that's just in every game. And in the same manner, there's I'm selling these fine leather jackets, which started with Indiana Jones. Yeah. Even before Fate of Atlantis, I think, with the Last Crusade point-and-click adventure, which came out in the 80s as well. So yeah, there's just so much in there, so much for people that have a love for the genre and the love
for the genre. And the guy in the scum bar with the ask me about loom.
Yeah.
Item. That was pretty cool. I like that too.
Yeah. There was a lot of
there's a lot of those little references.
Yeah, and anytime someone showed up from the original games was always a blast. There were a few people missing, but I mean, some of my favorite moments, cutting down the tree to get the wood for the ore. I thought that was hilarious with the woodland critters. How they're, you get there, they're all dancing around the tree and they're all happy, and it's kind of something out of a fairy tale. And then Guybrush just annihilates the tree, and you leave them all dying and in tears.
That was one of the best moments. That was hilarious.
And it comes back into the game, and this is what I was kind of alluding to before about the do you see with the tree, the mop tree and all that sort of stuff? After that, you go to the you talk to the cook, he mentions it, but also there's a wanted poster for any information to track down who's responsible for destroying the tree. I did notice that. Nice little touch. But yeah, I mentioned
Yeah.
before like a story that runs through the game between Elaine and Guybrush, and as you get
Mm.
further and further into the game, you realize all these terrible things that Guybrush is doing at the expense of everyone around him. Like
It's got consequences.
yeah, like he's stealing from people, he's destroying things, he's ruined the political climate of an entire island and community
Mm.
by dethroning the queen and declaring anarchy. That was another one of my favorite moments.
Abolish the monarchy. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Where I think I said I'm setting up a system of some sort of, it was something to do with abolishing the monarchy, but it was like setting up a new government system or something like that.
yeah, they're doing this the queen's abdicating and you're being
Yeah.
sworn in as the new queen, and he's just like, give me the crown already, like I want the key.
Just
um,
destroys it
that was
immediately.
such a funny moment. But yeah, like as I was saying, it turned into this thing where yeah, Guybrush is a terrible person in the
Yeah.
style of like a Seinfeld or an Always Sunny character, where he's just doing whatever suits him to get to his desires, and it's all this pursuit for the secret of Monkey Island for not
Yeah.
really any reason. Like he doesn't need money. It doesn't seem like you've got endless money in this game, and he's got
Well, you do get down to your last piece of 8.
yes, that's true.
That puzzle annoyed me too. I was like, observe it. Oh, you bastards.
Yeah, that was, yeah. But Elaine will top him off. She's the one that's earning the money in that family, I'd say. But
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah, and it actually, like I mentioned Uncharted just before about whether you need to play the first 3 games, but it has a similar theme where, like in Uncharted 4, spoilers for that game, Elaine, Eleanor is like, Drake, you need to drop this. Like it's not worth all that you're going through to chase this treasure. When you've got a family, you've got a life to be fulfilled with, and with Guybrush, he's just like, yeah, but I want to find the secret, and
I'm going to get the secret, yeah.
yeah, and he was even screwing over his own wife in her pursuit of ending scurvy. So, I did like that dramatic thread existed, and I know you had some issues with the ending, which we'll get to, but we'll save that.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say that I liked how it tied into the actual ending. So I have different thoughts on the ending. Yeah.
I agree. Like, I like that it kind of did set up the ending and all that sort of stuff, but we'll get into the ending in a little bit anyway.
Some of the other moments that either I thought were funny or enjoyable. I loved when. So it started with the old couple that was the fake parents of Chucky and little Guybrush, but then they continued the same gag with LeChuck when he was lecturing his crew, where instead of actually giving him dialogue, they'd just be like, and another thing, blah 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 blah. Someone has been misusing the bell, blah 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 blah. So that was great, and the puzzle with Murray on Monkey Island, where you mentioned the LeChuck jingle before, and you have to play the jingle.
Oh, that was really cool. So it's kind of like it's a double puzzle. So you've got to work out like. I don't know if you actually had to put the skulls on in a special order.
You didn't have to, but it helped to. It just helps you know which one to hit, I guess.
Because I was trying to remember like the Mary Poppins like do re mi.
Yeah.
So I was trying to remember that in my head to work it out. So yeah.
Yeah, I did put them in order because I actually, this is what I'm proud of, is that I got the puzzle without getting the solution to it.
Oh really?
So in the game, one of the people from LeChuck's crew gives you the solution. That's part of the puzzle.
Yeah, that's how I got it. So because I knew it started with do because she told me that.
Yeah.
When you're on the ship, and I was talking to her, so I was like, okay, cool. So I know it's going to start there. That's where it's going to start. So all right. So he's doing up a theme. Is she doing up a new theme, or is she using his classic theme that we hear in the soundtrack? So I didn't know. So. But then going down there and distracting her and then stealing the actual sheet music, you can solve that puzzle.
Yeah. So I actually got my guitar out and played the jingle, and I was like, okay, so it's this note, then it's this note. So I ended up getting it without the solution. It's like
You did it the hard way.
I did it. I just wanted to figure it out with music,
Yeah,
with my musical knowledge. But and when I
fair
did it,
enough.
I was like, how was everyone expected to get this? But then I realized that you know
There's,
there's actually an in-game, really easy
there's an
solution.
in-game thing which literally tells you exactly what it is.
Yeah, so that was great. I loved the use of Stan as the marketing guru, who's able
Yep.
to get the limes out to as the solution to scurvy. I called them death globes. What did you call them?
Oh, I called them. Oh, what was it? They were fruit sabers, or no, there was something like that. Saber blasts, or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but yeah, I called them something or others, and it's just like "eat this" was like the catchphrase for it.
Right, yeah.
I was like, I just kept it simple.
I think eat this was mine too. But that was
Yeah,
fun, and you alluded to it earlier when we were talking about the two pirates that you have to give them
yeah.
to, and it's very much like I guess it's not specifically a COVID thing of denying
No,
science,
it's
but just
not, but
people
it's
in general.
definitely a reference to today's society where people are going, oh, that's fake news, and oh, scientific facts. Why would I believe anything that's scientific? And like, oh, guys, oh no. But yeah, no, it's definitely it was definitely I thought it was definitely a call to the whole fake news era that we live in, especially with the whole COVID pandemic.
Yeah,
Vaccinations aren't real, blah blah blah, and all this sort of stuff that we've just gone through.
yeah. It was quite funny to hear Stan
Mm.
explain it in the way he did, where it's like you have to give like vague, general bonuses that
These people are idiots. Is essentially what he was saying.
yeah, and then it says like may cure scurvy in small lettering.
Yeah,
So yeah, I've always loved Stan, and one of the hard jumps was to go with him from 2D to 3D because his
yeah.
hands just can't move quick enough for it to work. But they
Yeah,
they managed to
and
get it
not
right.
only that, the way that the suit animates.
Oh, I love that they kept that all the way through.
Yeah, yeah. So they need to keep that. Like even when he's prison jumpsuit, they kept that on there.
Yeah.
There's one thing is, and it's actually an achievement. I did see this after the game. Is you need to give Stan back his toothbrush. I never gave him his
Oh yeah.
toothbrush.
No, I did that.
I forgot about it. Every time, and then after I freed him and everything, I was like, oh, I'm supposed to give
Too
him his
late.
toothbrush. Oh
Yeah.
well. I didn't see it in my inventory there. I was like, whoops.
Yeah, there's only a few achievements I missed, and one of them was obviously the trivia one that
Mm.
I got the 10, but I didn't get the 20. And then there was an achievement for telling every single person that you can that you're
Mm.
searching for Monkey Island,
Yeah.
which I didn't. I stopped asking or telling people that.
Yeah, I didn't do too good on it. I think I actually had like one person left, and I was just doing it just to make conversation, basically, just
Sure.
to see what sort of things would pop up, just for looking for jokes as you do with these
Hmm.
games. Yeah, so I'll still have to go back and do the speed run version of it too to get the under 2 hours achievement.
Okay. Yeah, that would be tricky, I reckon, because you'd have to really get everything in the optimal order, especially when the world
Yeah.
opens up and you can go to the multiple different islands. Yeah.
So yeah, you'd have to work it. Like I think because I could speed run LeChuck's Revenge because that was one of the achievements back when that was on a console. So it was an
Okay.
Xbox achievement was to beat it under 2 hours or whatever. I'm pretty sure I did get that achievement.
Wow. That's a big
Um,
game.
yeah, because it's a big game, but it can be you can knock that game out in under 2 hours.
Mm, sure.
It's because you just have to do everything doing it all in the optimal order, and when you know exactly what you're looking for on all of them, it's pretty quick and easy.
Yeah, I remember having to do that for Broken Age and to get the
Mm,
platinum, and yeah, I had to do it a few times because it was
yeah,
really tight to get there in time. But anyway,
yeah,
let's talk about our least favorite moments, or I guess just things that we felt were missing from the game. So for me, like we're talking about all these great characters coming back, but
yep,
Meat Hook's nowhere to be seen. Which I feel like he's one of the more iconic guys from the
yeah.
original game. What did you
All
think?
you see from Meat Hook is his parrot and his hook.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened to Meat Hook.
Did something
I'm
happen?
wondering if that foul beastie took the rest of his life.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I missed something like from one of the games that's been since then. Like, did something happen to Meat Hook? Or
Not too sure.
yeah, and you couldn't even like go to his house or anything.
Yeah, Otis didn't seem to be terribly important because you free him from jail in the first act. I was like, oh, cool. He's probably going to do the same thing they did in the first game, where he'll pop back up as something later on in the game. And sure enough, he does pop back up, but then he's back in the prison cell again, and you can't break him out of this prison cell this time. So it's like, oh, okay. I don't see what there's a point in me for like getting you out of jail, and then he stays there for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I think that was it was really just to show you the way that you can use the serial numbers on the locks to do that in a few different puzzles afterwards. But
yeah,
I thought there would have been some kind of iteration of insult sword fighting. That would have been nice because even though the first game had that. I don't know what they had in the second. I can't remember what they had in the second game, but the third game
they didn't have any insult sword fighting in the second one.
Yeah, and then they had the rhyming game in the third.
Rhyming sword fighting in the second in Curse.
Yeah.
Escape had monkey combat.
Yes.
Which was Tails didn't have one though. It had something else. The second one didn't have one of the, and because that's one of the things that slows down the game the most is going through and getting like all the insults so you can beat the boss essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the second one's speedrunnable.
Right, sure.
I don't think there was one in Tails. I've got a feeling there was something where you had to go around and collect all different things, but I don't quite recall exactly what it was.
Anyway, I thought it would have been nice to have some kind of system that was similar.
It would have been nice for a callback.
Well, there was some callbacks because you fight LeChuck at one point.
Yeah, but like to have that same system so we could go through and learn a whole bunch of new insults would have been fun.
So this is a pretty big one for me. Is that you mentioned Ron Gilbert was behind 1 and 2. It just seemed like they retconned Escape from Monkey Island like completely, because wasn't the secret of Monkey Island that there was a giant monkey beneath it, and that the head was the head of that robot?
I think there's two secrets. Yeah, that's it. So the giant monkey head was the robot monkey.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of things that feels like it was retcon, because my understanding was, and from Curse of Monkey Island, it kind of is explained that underneath it, and the treasure for Big Whoop is the secret for Monkey Island itself, or it's a secret to immortality, hence why LeChuck's a ghost, because he was one of the pirates that was on Captain Marley's crew, who then caused a mutiny when they were on Dinky Island looking for Big Whoop, found the pathway to Monkey Island off Dinky, and that's where they found Big Whoop, which was the secret to eternal life, and how he became a ghost pirate, essentially. So it was like his secret to immortality was the secret of Monkey Island, and was, that's what the treasure of Big Whoop was. Because that was the other thing, is Big Whoop's never really explained in Revenge either. So it's kind of explained at the tail end of Curse. If you go through all the dialogue options when you're talking to LeChuck before he turns you into a small child, in the final act of that one, you go through all the dialogue options and everything there, and he actually goes through and tells you like what the story is with Captain Marley and Big Whoop and all that sort of stuff. So it actually all explains it there. And then you've got the giant monkey and all that sort of stuff in Escape, which you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Which I'd actually completely forgotten, and I was like, oh yeah, well that's true. The giant monkey head was the cockpit essentially for the giant robot monkey, which is a whole other thing.
And then the bigger one, like character based, is that Herman Toothright was H.T. Marley.
Yeah, that's
Elaine's dad.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna bring up next. Was like that's Elaine's dad. Like, and then when you meet Toothright in this one, it's like he doesn't remember who he is again and everything like that. And like Elaine doesn't refer to him as dad; she refers to him as Herman Toothright.
Yeah. So they definitely 100% retconned, I guess, Escape from Monkey Island, which is I understand. I kind of understand it because Ron wasn't involved in those. Maybe there was things in there that he didn't like or that conflicted with his vision for the story. Especially if
Yeah.
especially if this is like the game that was always meant to be his sequel, without those
Yeah.
ones that took place. But at the same time, in the scrapbook that you can read from the main menu,
It
it
makes
goes through.
reference of the giant robot monkey.
Yeah, it goes through like every game and showing like these memories of
Mm.
of Guybrush's through the years, and that's a really great way to catch people up and to remind people like
Mm-hmm.
us of what's happened over the years. It even has tales in there, which I thought was nice.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess it's not. Is it not canon? This will have to be discussed in subreddits and stuff like that. I'm sure we'll have to delve
Yeah.
into those at some point. But I did think maybe it's one of these things where they go, oh, everything that happened in Escape from Monkey Island was just Guybrush telling one of his crazy stories, because
Yeah.
it does seem that they've leaned into that especially in the ending of this game.
It is kind of annoying, and especially when the way, like you said, leading into this ending, it's what's really frustrating about them. But yeah,
Well, if you don't have any least favorite moments or nitpicks, do you want to get into the ending now?
I think we covered a lot of the nitpicks
Yeah.
already. I mean, like the biggest nitpicks, like I said, like about the puzzles really earlier, that were borderlining the Monkey Wrench puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Level, and like the one that I really thought of,
What was the one that bothered you?
the one that really bothered me. So the first one was that you had to find the 1,000 needles or whatever it was for the recipe for the voodoo lady, and because you see the echidnas or the hedgehogs out the mop tree, and they're actually a clickable thing before you destroy the tree. I was like, oh, there must be something to do with the hedgehogs because they've got little needles and everything like that. So maybe I've got to pick them up, or it's got to bite me or something. I don't know what it was, but it's got to be something along those lines. But then you go back to the mop tree and everything like that, and you can't interact with it. And I was like, okay, so it's not that. And then I found the plant, and I was like, oh, because it says something in the description of the plant saying, needles and all that sort of stuff. And I couldn't work out for the life of me what to do with this plant. And it wasn't until much later I was like, I used the hint thing. It says, use the knife on the plant. I'm like, oh, you've got to be shitting me. That was the first one that really bugged me.
Mm.
But the second one in part 2, when you've got to heat up the meal for the for Flambe up in the crow's nest,
Yeah.
to get his joke book off him, that really bugged me. Where you have to cut the ember off the
Yeah,
the
that was
glowy
annoying.
stick thing, and like, because there's an absolute massive red herring if you're in the chef's galley, where it's got like the demon head spice. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I've got to find this demon head spice thingy so I can find that, so I can heat up his meal for him. Can't find it anywhere and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, seriously, there is no clue anywhere to reference, heating it up with the glowy ember.
And
that one was
and you can't even just like use the glowing stick on it.
no.
You got to
You have to
slice a
cut
bit
the
of it
top
off.
off it,
Yeah.
and then use the little bit in the food. Like, that one was really, really frustrating.
Yeah,
a lot of the other puzzles I didn't really have any issues with. They were all work outable. I thought the puzzle on Terror Island with going through the cave, I thought that one, it was a little bit, it threw me off a little bit because you couldn't rearrange the order of the notes that you pick up.
Yeah, that threw me off a little bit because it wasn't like you had to
Clear.
arrange them in a narrative order, and
Yeah.
even still, I was like, these two, I'm not sure which of them is in the right order. So it came down to just like which of those two symbols was an option, and one of them wasn't there. So I was like, okay, well, it mustn't be that one. I'll try the other.
Yeah,
and it worked
exactly.
out. Yep.
Because I went to go back to talk to Wally, but Wally's been taken away by LeChuck again.
Poor Wally. He just gets left hanging, literally, doesn't he?
Every single game.
I guess that's the throwback, that he just is always left hanging by his arms.
Yeah.
And he never really grows up. Is he an adult? I don't know. He's kind of like in between adulthood and...
He's a permanent man-child.
Yeah. That's it. Hardest working child ever.
Yeah, it's hard being a child actor.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we've said enough. We can get to the ending. I think this is a big part
Yeah.
of the discussion because
Yeah.
if this is the last Monkey Island game, then this is where it
Mm-hmm.
ends. And in some ways, they set this up as retconning or fixing the lack of an ending to Monkey Island 2 with the
Yeah.
intro at the theme park or at the carnival.
Mm-hmm.
Really clever what they did there, I thought, with the whole, it's just two kids pretending to be
Yeah. I like that too.
LeChuck and Guybrush, which still doesn't actually give us an ending for what happened at the end of 2, does it?
No.
No.
No, it doesn't.
Unless it goes straight into the third one, but it doesn't.
It kind of, so going into Curse, so at the start of Curse, he's floating on the ocean in a Dodgem car.
Yes.
From the theme, the Carnival of the Damned, which is the carnival that LeChuck set up on Monkey Island.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my understanding is, he's a little kid Guybrush, he's stuck on the thing, and then he works out that he's stuck as a little kid Guybrush, and he has to escape, and his escape is via the, the Dodgem car to get into the ocean, and then that's where Curse starts.
Yeah. Okay, so there's been a long history of these surreal kind of mind-bending logics and kind of things, and it felt like they were going in a direction that away from that,
Yep.
but they were not. It was a psych out.
Yeah.
And I actually enjoyed the kind of throwback to the ambiguity of Monkey Island 1 and 2. And I mentioned before about the drama between Elaine and Guybrush, and what are you doing this for, and maybe you should give up.
Yep.
For the ending to actually be Guybrush with his family, they take off, and he just sits there in peace and serenity for a few moments before the credits roll. And I guess the unwritten dialogue there is that he's finally learnt to relax and just enjoy what he has without searching, needing to prove himself, needing to prove that he's a mighty pirate and all this kind of thing. So I liked that approach to the ending. But I guess that's a separate thing to the surreal part that you might have had an issue with.
Yeah, I like the narrative framing part of the ending where he's like talking to his son, and Elaine comes up and says, go down, watch the galleon and all this sort of stuff, and I found this treasure map to Mer or Island or whatever it is, and all this sort of stuff. Like that, I didn't really have too much of an issue with. The issue I had is you've gone through all these puzzles, you're chasing down LeChuck, he's having this life and death battle with Dee, or Captain, what's her name?
Madison.
No, not Madison. Madison's dead by this stage. Who died off screen? I'm like, when did Madison die? Like just completely randomly died off screen. I was like, okay, like that couldn't have been something, and something happened with Trent. So because it's Captain Trent and Captain is Dee, the little girl character at the start. She's basically the other captain from the new pirate leaders who's doing all the magic. So they're having the sword fight. You're chasing them. You get through that final puzzle door, and you're back on Mealy Island, and it stands theme park, and it's like, no, Ron Gilbert, you can't be doing this to me again. No, what do you? No, this doesn't make sense. What the hell is this? He did this 30 years ago with Monkey Island 2, but like that was more along the lines of, we're probably going to get a sequel to this, which we eventually did, but there was never really an explanation to that ending. But here we are, we're getting a game where we haven't had a game in the series for, 12, 13 years now. So we're probably not going to get a resolution to this ending either. And it's just, it was so anticlimactic. Like, you've had this huge build-up, you're chasing LeChuck, he's having this huge sword fight and everything like that. And it's like, we're going to see something's going to happen here, and we're going to get some sort of resolution to this story, and as to how Guybrush is now talking to his son and, telling him the story of the secret and everything like that. I didn't care that all the secret ended up being was a t-shirt in that gaudy chest. Didn't bother me in the slightest. Not an issue. The issue I have is then after all of that, we get to this climatic battle and everything like that, and it's just ripped out from underneath us, and it's like, nah, you're in another theme park. And I was like, wait, so he's not back in the island, the Carnival of the Damned or anything again. Like, no, that's it. No, there's nothing there. There's no payoff to that. Going back to being in a theme park and all this sort of stuff. Like, it, it really, it, it was an absolute gut punch to me.
Yeah,
Um,
I can see. Yeah, I can see where you're coming at. Like, one of the
mm,
nitpicks that I wrote down that I wanted to say for this was that there was no real showdown with LeChuck. Like, there was no
yeah,
moment to face off with him,
yeah,
towards the ending. So that would
yeah,
have been a nice addition to it, I guess. Um,
mm,
and yeah, I do like wonder, anticlimax aside, even though that is, significant and legitimate
mm,
criticism. What do you think the ending means by the way that it went to the carnival and Stan's running it, and you've got all these people that are being animatronically represented, and you have to
yeah.
turn the lights off before you leave. Like, did you think that was real and everything else was fake, or did you think everything else was real and the carnival was a
Well,
metaphor for something?
I, I think it was a metaphor for Ron Gilbert can't write an ending. Um, and he has a fascination with theme parks because it wasn't the Thimbleweed Park. It was like, and you'll have to correct me from what I've read online since I finished it because I needed to see. There's got to be something else here that I've missed. Like, what's going on? Is there another ending that I've missed or something like that? But Thimbleweed Park apparently had a similar sort of theme park ending or something like that. Is that correct?
uh, so spoilers for Thimbleweed Park, just briefly. Skip
Mm.
forward 20 seconds if you don't want to hear this. The way that game ends is that the character realizes that they're in a video game and they have to turn off the server, and then when you do that, it boots you back to like the basic dev version of
Oh
Thimbleweed
god.
Park, and and then the game
Yeah.
ends. It's very
So yeah, essentially, as like I said, Ron Gilbert can't write an ending to save his life.
well. I thought it was
Um,
funny, so it worked for
yeah.
me. um,
I mean, the context, I don't know. And the context for Thimbleweed Park might be different, but for this one, it was really after he'd done it already with Revenge, to come back and do this again. Essentially, it's just literally just felt like someone just pulled the rug out from underneath you. It really, really, really was frustrating. But that being said, there are multiple endings, so you don't have to turn all the lights off.
all right, okay.
You don't have to collect the treasure, like the secret, out of the treasure box. You can walk away without not opening the box or even collecting the key to open it.
That wouldn't
Um,
change much, though, would it?
it doesn't. It doesn't. Apparently, you can go back. So the keys that Stan gives you, you can go back down the alley, go back through the door, and then follow the pathways all the way back out of the monkey,
Okay.
underneath Monkey Island, and that
Wow.
gives you another alternate ending. Plus, so there's that little mid-credit scene that pops up as well. That changes depending on which ending you get. So, like, if you say, "Oh, the real secret was all the friends we made along the way," and you
Yes.
collected the T-shirt, it comes up with a graphic of all of like Guybrush with the friends from the game and everything like that,
Ah,
all in board a dinghy sort of thing. So like you do that with
that's what I saw.
depending on what you did, what answers you give is to what ending you get. And there's a different ending for if you go back through the labyrinth again. And it's like apparently it cuts to like Guybrush and Elaine on a pirate ship together, like and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so there's multiple different endings, and the other ending that is sort of not secret if you're underwater, because there's many instances in the game where you are underwater,
Mm.
and you let that timer run out,
Guybrush just dies.
um, you die.
I did that. I did. You do that?
No, I didn't do that, but
I
I,
did.
I, I looked
Yeah.
it up afterwards. So the first time you do it, apparently you talk to your son and everything. I was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. That's not what happens. Blah blah blah. But then if you do it again, it comes up saying that you died or something like that, and you didn't have any children, and him and Elaine never married. Blah blah blah. All this
Yeah.
sort of stuff.
Yep. And it just shows the park bench that you were sitting on completely empty,
Mm.
and it's a
Yeah.
really sad It's really sad. Like it made me go, oh well, that is sad. Like okay, I guess I better not drown.
Yeah, probably not. Maybe I should have not held my breath for that long.
The first time the timer runs out, it gives you like an extra 3 minutes. So it's like okay,
Yeah,
and I was like, no, there's got to be some joke in here, or maybe an achievement or something. So yeah,
yeah.
I wanted to see what happened.
I think it's the same with from the original Secret. You don't actually have to get out of the water.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can die there and all that sort of stuff, and end the game right there. Essentially, it was one of those things. It's just the ending really like when I finished the game and I was looking at it, and then I was looking online to see, hey, this can't be it. This can't be how this game ends. And I was just so let down. I messaged you so quickly to say, hey, when are we doing a spoiler cast on this? Because I have words that need to be said.
Yeah.
I was just so hurt by it, the ending.
Yeah, I think I might be, I might be more lenient than you. I know how hard it is to write
Yeah.
an ending. um,
Oh, I'm not
it's tough.
saying it's not hard to write an ending, and
Yeah.
it didn't have to be anything fantastic. Like I didn't really care what the secret was because I was sitting there in the back of my mind going, "Isn't the secret LeChuck's immortality?" That's what I've always thought it was.
Not when you retcon.
Yeah, but it really just felt like an absolute gut punch. It really did.
Well, I'm sure it will be polarizing, and
Yeah.
when we're finished talking, I am curious to go down the rabbit hole and see what people thought of the ending on Reddit and stuff like that, because I'm sure that there's a lot of crazy theories about the ending of 2 that I'm sure you've seen.
Yeah.
About being possessed or hypnotized or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that people have metaphorical interpretations of this as well. So yeah, be keen to check that out.
Yeah.
One last thing before we do
Mm-hmm.
our final parting words. Did you know that Neil Druckmann is in this game?
I did not.
Yeah, so he voices a character apparently in the prison. There were so many characters in the prison that I didn't even talk to them all.
I didn't. I didn't talk to any of them.
Yeah, and I did not talk to the one that I think Neil Druckmann played. I've been looking everywhere for a clip of it to see if it's a joke.
Yeah.
But people might remember in Uncharted 4, there's a whole story about pirates, and there's a painting that you can find that has Guybrush Threepwood represented as like a historical figure. So
Okay.
I guess it was like a return the favor for the shout out to Neil Druckmann to have him voice a character
Yeah.
in the prison. So I hope I've watched like 5 different Let's Plays to try and find someone that talks to him, and they all just walk straight past.
No, you'll have to go through on another playthrough to get the rest of those trivia cards and.
Yeah, I might do the easy mode where it's half the puzzles or something. Just to get to him. But anyway, that is Return to Monkey Island.
Yeah.
What's your final words? Well, I'll let you go first.
I'll keep it short and sweet. 95% of the game was great. It's just that ending sucked. I loved the entire game right up until the end.
Almost like a Mass Effect 3 kind of situation where I
Yeah,
guess it's the journey. It's the journey, not the destination.
Exactly.
Yep.
So it's still like, let's just I'll just call it like if I was to score it on like 100-point scale and get a 95 out of 100, it'd be 95% sort of score. It's just that last little bit that really, really just ruined the whole experience for me. It really was an absolute gut punch after such a fantastic game.
All right. Did you, when you finished the game, did you go back into the scrapbook to read the?
I certainly did.
Yeah, I thought that was such a brilliant little way to leave, a good taste in people's mouths, even if they maybe didn't like the ending. But there's a brilliant letter. I don't know if it's real or if they just put it in for the game, but it comes across like it's an email or something that was sent between Ron Gilbert and I'm not sure who the other signature is on there. Did you know it was?
Oh, I do not recall.
Someone else.
I kind of read it as a letter from Ron Gilbert. I think it's the other guy that he got back from the original team to to like who was like the head of the art team or something like that.
Yeah. So apologies to that guy for not knowing your name. But it's a great letter about how the first game was about being overwhelmed and trying to make your mark in the games industry, much like Guybrush as a pirate was trying to find his place in the world. And then the second game, the sequel, was about trying to follow up that hit and not really knowing how to do it. And then through till now, I've got a screenshot here that I just want to read because I think it really sums up what makes this special. Because I think as players, like we grew up with this game, we were children when when we played the first one, and now we're in our 30s with our very much adult lives to deal with.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a nice little a bit of looking in the mirror as you play this game. So
yeah,
and it's kind of similar to Clerks. Like Clerks 3's about to come out over here, hopefully, and it's that same thing where Kevin Smith. It's like representing different phases of his life.
Yeah.
Here's the letter. We are well into our 50s now. We've had lengthy careers. We've made a lot of games, but Monkey Island still defines us to a certain degree, or at least in the minds of many. We are those guys who made that game a long time ago, and it feels like there's some unfinished business there. When the opportunity arose to come back to Monkey Island, we were pretty much on the same page as to what we wanted to do. Guybrush, like us, is older now. He's had a long and reasonably successful career, but he is mostly associated with something that happened a long time ago, and that feels unfinished to him. The game is a goofy pirate adventure, the same as always, but also it's a story about trying to recapture the past, with all its alleged youthful strength and glory. Guybrush will both succeed and fail at this. He will sort of get what he wants, but it won't be what he expected. Does that sound about right for you, Benny? Because it says, I predict the same for us.
Yeah. I got a feeling like he's referencing The Secret and all that sort of stuff there, like we talked about before, but like I said, that's not what ever really bothered me. I didn't care if we ever got an answer as to what The Secret was. I just wanted... I just hated the fact that they went back to that theme park well. And that really bugged me.
Yeah. Well, dear listeners, we'd love to know what you think or thought of Return to Monkey Island. You can let us know in the 8-Bit Discord. You can let us know on socials. Benny is at the Spawny13. I'm at Jono.
Not anymore.
Oh, you've changed? What?
I've changed my Twitter handle. I got my old Twitter handle back, so I'm at Ben McJ on Twitter.
Okay, I should have noticed that.
I've uniformed everything now.
There we go. Well, rewind to the start of this episode and forget what I said about the Spawny 13, because Spawny 13 is dead.
Did you say that at the start?
I did.
Oh, you did too, sorry. I didn't pick up on that, my apologies.
Ben McJ.
BENMCJ.
And of course, 8-Bits at We Are 8-Bit. Do all the good stuff, rating, reviews. Episode 300 of The Hungry Gamers probably should be out by the time you're hearing this, so give that a listen. Give some love to Brendan and Ali. They deserve it after literally hundreds of episodes bringing you the pop culture gaming news. Thank you for joining us. Much love.
Stay hungry.
I'm trying to think of some kind of piratey way to sign off, but
what's a pirate's favorite letter of the alphabet?
Is it R?
Oh, you think it'd be R, but it's really the C.